Hello, welcome to Geekdom of God. I'm your host, Santier, and today I'm going to try something a little different. A top 5 list, specifically my top 5 picks for Bible passages that seem to get overlooked. Let's get started with number 5. Matthew 23:9. And do not call anyone on earth Father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. This verse is Jesus' instruction and is part of a larger section about looking to God, rather than our fellow human beings, as our superior. I selected this particular verse, however, because of the tradition of calling priests Father, a tradition that seems to fly in the face of this instruction. Number 4. Mark 13:32. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. This verse comes from a section where Jesus talks about his second coming and the end times. There are a number of important things to note in this section. For example, that war is the natural course of things and not predictive of Jesus' return, or that false prophets will pretend to be Jesus. But perhaps the most significant one is that no one knows when it will happen except for God the Father. Not even Jesus knows. If that is the case, then we should have no reason to believe that a regular human has predicted it, regardless of the method. I selected this verse because there have been a number of incidences throughout the many years where someone claims to know when Jesus will return. They set a date. Some Christians freak out and make some very poor choices. Then they have to live with those choices because, as it turns out, the prophet was wrong. This verse tells us to not trust such prophets. Number 3. Leviticus 19:33-34. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native-born. Love them as yourself, for you are foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. This verse is God telling the Israelites how to treat foreigners, and it comes from the infamous chapter 19 of Leviticus. And it is quite clear, the Israelites were to treat foreigners like the native-born of their land. I included this verse because I think it can do a good job of highlighting politically motivated inconsistencies. Christians have to be careful to not use the Bible as justification for merely human positions, but rather as a guide as to what their positions should even be in the first place. Number 2. James 2:10-13. For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it. For he who said, "You shall not commit adultery," also said, "You shall not murder." If you do not commit adultery but do commit murder, you have become a lawbreaker. Speak and act as those who are going to be judged by the law that gives freedom, because judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. Mercy triumphs over judgment. I chose this lengthier passage because it is one of the most potent examples that sin is sin and that Christians are called to be merciful. To the first, James states it clearly. Regardless of what sin is committed, the guilt before God is damning, whether that is adultery, murder, or gossip. We have a very human habit of trying to elevate certain sins above others, and while some sins have higher earthly consequences, all sin has the same eternal consequence. Another human habit we have that this aspect rebukes is the tendency to assuage ourselves by condemning sins we don't commit and hand-waving the seriousness of sins we do commit. James makes it clear, before God, there is no difference. The response to this is to be merciful. If we act like a judge, even though we ourselves are lawbreakers, then we will likewise receive merciless judgment. But if we humbly recognize our sinful state and the grace given us by Jesus, then we should act with mercy and understanding towards all sinners, whether Christian or not. Number 1. 1 Peter 4:15. If you suffer, it should not be as a murderer or a thief or any other kind of criminal, or even as a meddler. This is my number 1 choice because this verse makes it clear how bad meddling is. Unfortunately, I think Christians are prone to engaging in meddling, often with good intentions. You see, meddling is interfering with someone's life to try and control how their life goes. We often meddle when we think someone is doing something foolish. We don't trust them to live their life to the best of their ability, so we try to take control. This is dehumanizing and unloving, even if we think we're doing it for their best interests. This also makes it assumptive. Meddling is not a minor thing to do, nor is it a loving thing. That is why the Apostle Peter puts it in a list with murder and theft. And that's my list. If you have a different 5 you'd choose, I'd love to hear about them, so share away in the comments below. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's Geekdom of God podcast. To support this program, go to patreon.com/Santier. For more, you can visit geekdomofgod.com. Finally, you can email Santier at geekdomofgod.com.